I think there's always a danger that because Grossman was forced to witness so many terrible things, Stalingrad and Treblinka, most obviously, that we tend to see him as this kind of rather grim figure. And we forget that, or it almost seems sort of almost bad taste to talk about how funny he can be. But there are lots of scenes in Life and Fate and elsewhere that are very delicate and very wittily observed. There's a very attractive minor character, a lieutenant colonel, I think, called Darinsky, who is something of a womanizer. And there's a scene where he's playing cards with 3 other people, one of whom is a woman he wants to go to bed with. And there's a wonderful bit about how he knows he's losing in the game of cards, but winning in the more important game of charming this woman. There are lots of these kind of details which people tend not to write about because, naturally enough, they focus on these huge questions like the Battle of Stalingrad. So it is funny. It is an extraordinarily complete picture of Stalinist Russia. Grossman really did know every level of that world. On the one hand, he was a well-known war reporter. So he knew the top generals. He was friendly with some of the top generals. He knew the top writers. He moved in the Soviet elite. On the other hand, he seems to have had an extraordinary ability to win the trust of all kinds of people. So he really was able to get the humblest soldiers or peasants or nurses to speak very, very freely. No other war correspondent at the time seems to have had that ability. Other war correspondents constantly expressed their amazement. And I think it probably was simply that, well, in the first place, Grossman never took notes. Going to an interview with a pencil and notebook obviously would intimidate a lot of people. Grossman never took notes. He relied on what was clearly an extraordinary memory. And he evidently made people feel that he really was interested in them, in their lives as a whole, not just in kind of the role they'd played in some particular military event. So anyway, he had the ability to get people to talk. He had a real interest in people's lives. And that shows, the kind of fruit of that is clearly there, even in the most minor characters in Life and Fate. So a very, very all-encompassing picture of Stalin's Russia, which, none of the other dissident writers of that time, none of them sort of moved in a sufficiently wide range of social contexts that they could possibly have written a book of such breadth.